morning YouTube, or should I say evening YouTube. So I'm on my way back from seeing somebody, and I thought I'd just drop in and have a chat with you about advice that I wish I would have heard when I first started, and I'm going to sort of pass that along to you. It's not the sort of don't work for rubbish customers, and stuff like that. It's more so the little bits you don't think about, and this is why I like YouTube. I've always said this, I do like the talkie videos because you get an insight into how people work, and I think if you're listening to like the ins and outs of how, say, somebody has run a successful gardening business, you pick up the little nuances and the little sort of tips and tricks, so to speak, that makes their business successful. Fundamentally, we all do the same thing. Like, we all mow a lawn, or we all do a border, but the bits that are in between that, the 100 steps that go before that, and then the 100 steps after that, fundamentally are all different to all of us, and it's differing points along the way that when you see gardeners that are at the top of the game in year 2, and then you see gardeners that are treading water in year 5, it is different. It really is, and there's a lot that plays into it. And I hold no sort of, I don't look at anybody that is still struggling on and think they're doing it wrong. There's always a lot of reasons for it. It could be bad luck, it could be down to the gardener, it could be down to the customer base, but I genuinely think there's good work everywhere in my experience, and there's good people everywhere in my experience. I used to think the area that I lived in when I first started was a tight area, but it isn't. People are willing to pay a fair price for a fair job. There'll always be the people out there that you can charge top whack, basically rip them off, and they'll pay it, but they'll never have you again. And I think, when you see these posts on Facebook, and where someone will put a lawn up, and this is why I do and I don't like Facebook. The gardening groups that I am, I think UK Garden Maintenance, brilliant. Lawn Care Legends, brilliant. I've been on others, I won't name them, I wasn't too keen on them, and I've probably not discovered other equally as good ones as those two I mentioned. But there's a lot of dick swinging, there's a lot of, it's opinion, and this is the thing. And it's like, when you look at it and look at what people say, they never work for old people, they never work for people in this house, they never work for people who do that job. If you listen to them, you won't have a customer base. Just the same as when I mentioned the red flags video, I did mention at some point definitely that I would still take customers on if they're shown to any of those red flags, because everyone does. There's no such thing as a perfect customer. There really isn't. I've had customers in the past, maybe this is advice for one of them, where they've been really good, but it can all change. I told the story, I think it was either this year or last year, about it was the thingy story, where I mentioned about I lost 2 of my best customers pretty much within 2 days, and I've basically, from what I can gather, they went bankrupt. They just went bump, and they lost everything. And they were good customers, but things can change. This week, and this is another thing about change, this week I lost 2 customers, and they were really good customers. They were good people, they were, you can rely on them. I did 2 seasons of no problems off them, no moaning, nothing. And it's customers like that, and this is the thing as well, another bit of advice: good customers, it's not all about those that pay the most, those that charge, you can charge the most. It's not all about money, it's the fact that customers will leave you to it. customers that trust you. I've said this before. If a customer trusts you, they'll leave you alone. They won't be checking up on you. They won't be looking out the window. They won't be nagging you. You know, they'll leave you to it because they trust you. And it is literally as simple as that. It is as simple as that. There's no two ways about it. If they trust you, they'll leave you to it. So I think sometimes it's worth trust. Trying to build trust. Thing is, I think sometimes people test you. And I think, you know, don't get me wrong, I've had it before where it's like the other day, about 3 or 4 months ago, I was round a customer's house and he's an elderly guy and he paid me, and I think he paid me 50 quid, or no, he paid all, I think it was 60 quid, so say he paid me 60. Well, he counted out the money, and I think and his relative was watching him, his son-in-law I think it was, and he watched him count this money out, and I watched him count it, and he took out 3 £20 notes. And the new £20 notes, I always, they do stick together, and you know, they aren't the same, but they are what they are, aren't they? So I counted the money, and 2 of the notes were stuck together. So even though I watched him, and it did look like he gave me 3 notes, because he peeled 3 notes off, there was 80 quid there, and I gave him 20 quid back, and I said, oh, you know, and the customer didn't necessarily pick up on it, because he's an OAP, and he saw himself take out 3 notes. So I give him 1 back, even though I had 3 notes left in my hand. But the son-in-law saw it, and it's little things like that, you know, and he saw it and he appreciated it, and you know, it's little things like that for him now, my, you know, can't say never, but you know, my trust, you know, or integrity, it'll never come into question, because he's seen an example where I could have pocketed 20 quid, you know, but I didn't. I chose, you know, you give it back. And I think being upfront and honest with people is so important, because you'll only do it once. You'll only do it once, and once you've done it once, you know, it's a slippery slope. Will you do it again? Will you keep doing it? You know, I'm not saying that was a gateway, but you know, and the people, and you'll only do it once if you get caught or the customer thinks you've had it. I think as well is always another thing for as well, advice is always look ahead for your business. There's no harm in having lofty dreams. You know, it sounds a bit thingy, but if you see yourself, you know, in a big house or a brand new Transit Custom with all the options, a 50 grand van, you know, shoot for it. You know, even if you know that you're not that type of person, but it's a dream, shoot for it. If you want to have staff one day, shoot for it. Put things into place, you know, work, especially with a van or anything monetary, work, you know, think about it, you know, push yourself for it, and think to yourself, right, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to have this in place, you know, work an extra sort of evening all the time. I heard somewhere where it was, I think it was a chap, and he was saying that I can't think how he went about doing it, but I think he took something on. I think it was a debt or something, and he took it on, but it wasn't a debt. I think he set himself up a direct debit or something. And it was like one of these business podcasts. He was saying that he set himself up a direct debit to go into another account for like £2 grand a month, and he says he could just about do it, but he set himself up for it. And he said that there was the first couple of months he went without, but he could got the money back whenever he wanted. He could back it over, no problem, but he didn't, and he kept it, and he got extra work, and he took on extra work. I think it was to buy something or something. But anyway, he did it. I think he wanted a flashy car, something like that. You know what I mean? He wanted a flash car, and he grafted and he grafted, and he said at the end of the year he had that money in a separate account, but the first couple of months were horrible and hard. But as he'd sort of realised and worked and done extra work and took extra jobs on and cleared the crap out and sold it that he didn't need, you know what I mean, he did everything he can to make that £2,000 repayment. And he said at the end of it, he said he never bought the car in the end because he realised he didn't need it, but he had a £24,000 lump sum in his bank from working hard. So I think sometimes there's no harm in dreaming. You know, for me, I've got a little bit more loftier ambitions, but for me, I want a good retirement, so I'm willing to put money into it. But for me, the next 5 years are going to be all about making my life easier for my, you know, my next working life after that 5 years. So I'll be putting things into place. You know, I've said this all the while, I don't mind working hard. I want to take more time off, don't get me wrong. But this year for me, it sounds weird, I've done less work, but I've earned more. And that's by making the hard choices. And that's by, you know, not having a, you know, but you have to compromise, you have to sort of, and this is another bit of advice, is it's just business. It really is just business. Now, I'm not ruthless, I'm not some, you know, super businessman. You know, it's not all about, you know, get rid of this to get rid of that and to maybe get this. It's, you know, I know my good customers, I know my bad customers, but I've got rid of a couple of the bad customers this year, and that's freed up time for the good customers and the extra jobs. So this year, I don't think I've ever had so many Sundays off, even Saturdays off, and that's been unheard of for me. But I'm still earning more, and I'm still earning, you know, what I need to and more. Not by much, I'm not being a boastful idiot, but I think definitely for the next 5 years, I want to keep that going, where I'm working that little bit less, but I'm earning that little bit more. But also, the choices I'm making in the next 5 years, you know, a little bit of investing here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, hopefully it's going to make it where, you know, when I come to retirement, it's going to be a good one. But also, after these 5 years, I can take the, you know, the pedal off the brake, so to speak, off the accelerator. But there's no harm in having dreams. There really isn't. There really isn't at all. It's just stupid little things. It is. When I first went self-employed, when I was working for somebody and I was thinking about it, there was a customer I worked for. I did a little bit of work for him, like a few hours, and then when I went self-employed, I think I did 3 or 4 hours. And this bloke, at the core of it, he wasn't a bad bloke. He wasn't necessarily a bad customer, but he took it for granted, and he took me for granted, and he was one of them where the people you think would sympathise the most don't. So he himself he's a, you know, I'd say he's an in air quotes successful, you know, business person, and he come from nothing, but he's one of them, you know, for me, I always try and help people. You know, it's like with the house clearances. There's a young lady, one of my customers, she's starting up a furniture business, and you know, I'm in a position where the brief for this house description is he wants his furniture to go to charity, and I couldn't think, you know, not all of it, but a couple of pieces. It's going to give this girl, this young lass, a start. She's going to have some materials to do and work on, and if she bollocks his one up, she's got another one, but she won't, because she's skilled at her job. But it's giving her, you know, that little bit of a start, and I do believe in it. I really do. I believe in helping people. This is why I do the YouTube. The main aim for it isn't, but if it helps somebody, that's enough for me. But I can't think what I was babbling on about now. But as I said, when I was working for this bloke, he told me once, and I used to charge him £15 an hour. And like I said, he was a businessman and all that, so he knew how it worked. And I says to him, I says, oh, and I got sick of working for him, if I'm being honest with you. He did me brain in, basically. He was, as I say, it's a long story with this bloke. But, you know, I didn't want to work for him anymore, basically. It's as simple as that. And even when I first started, I knew that this customer wasn't for me. It wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't, you know, it's not the work that I wanted. And I had other work, but I knew if I'd have kept working for him, and I just put up with it. So I decided to drop him. And I was, as I said, I had enough work on, but I could have justified keeping him, but I didn't. And at the start of the season, I told him, I said, look, I said, and I told him, he was, like I said, he's a businessman, so he knows how it works. And I says to him, I says, look, I says, you know, nothing personal, but I can't work for you anymore. He said, oh, that's why? And I told him, I says, I've got other jobs that are nearer to me that I can earn more money off. Like I said, this bloke lived and breathed business, and it was easier for me to tell him the truth than it was to give him a bullshit excuse which he'd see through. And to be fair on him, he didn't go the way, he didn't say, oh no, you're dropping me, nothing like that. He said, okay, that's no problem. But he looked at me and he says, you'll never be able to earn more than what I'm paying you. And he was paying me £15 an hour. And I'll be honest with you, it wound me up. But since then I've proven it wrong, and I proved it wrong straight away. And I'm not, what I'm earning, it's not ripping people off, it's not taking advantage of vulnerable people, nothing of the sort. It's just doing an honest day's graft or an honest job for an honest pay that represents that. And I'm more than happy with what I get. So I hope this video helps, guys. A little bit of an inspirational chat maybe, who knows. But have a good day, guys, and as usual, keep on gardening.